right. And we are live. Give me just 1 second to share this out to my page. Make it public. All right. Now you guys can share it from my page as well. All right. And we have our comments on. So as you come into the room, I always say coming into the room. But as you come into the conversation, if you have questions or comments, please feel free to drop us some comments so that I can make sure that our guests are able to get to them. So welcome, welcome, welcome to our third installment on the topic of mental health, especially as it relates to the African American community. And so I'm your host, B Speaks, and I'm a licensed clinical social worker, licensed in Georgia, New York, and temporarily New Jersey. And the purpose of this platform is to bring the resources, the wisdom, and the encouragement to pursue your mental and emotional wellness, especially in the times that we're living in. And I am very fortunate to be sitting at the table with kings and queens who are knowledgeable, who are aware, and who have a passion for helping others to fulfill their purpose in life. And so I'm going to allow them to introduce themselves. We'll start with you, Josh, if you want to give us a brief introduction of who you are and what you do. That would be great.
Sure. I am Josh Rogers, and originally from Memphis, Tennessee. Currently reside here in the Atlanta area. By trade, I am a community development consultant, but I also host what I think is a pretty dope podcast called The Jigsaw, and we talk about navigating the nuances of life, specifically as a Black person. And I'm just extra Black, love my Blackness, and super excited about being a part of the conversation.
Thank you, Josh, for being a part of the conversation. For sure. I look forward to everything that you have to share tonight. So absolutely. Scott.
Hey, thanks for having me back. My name is Scott Hayes. I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I work for the Department of Veterans Affairs, and I got a couple of different jobs. Really just two. So I do licensed clinical social work, of course, also a part-time baker, and as I always have, I'm a part-time militant Negro. So very rooted in my Blackness and the things that I would love to see my people grow into. It's my work. Very passionate about it, and I'm here to make sure that we grow and grow together.
Yes, absolutely. Scott, let me tell you, anytime I have a function, Scott bakes my cakes for me. And, he usually talks a lot of trash, but he has my cake up to the job on time. So I don't complain. So thank you, Scott. Very thankful for you returning and being here to be a part of this important conversation for sure. Miss Erica, introduce yourself.
Hello. My name is Erica Utley. I'm a licensed professional counselor. I am also an author, and more than anything, I am a human being. I love my Blackness, really do. And one of the things that I specialize in is trauma and overcoming trauma. And one of the biggest things that I've been seeing here lately is are my Black people coming to see me, and they just don't know what to do with all of what's going on as it relates to social injustice, racial injustices. So I am here for this conversation so that we can elevate as a people. So thank you, Brandy, for the opportunity, and I look forward to what tonight will bring.
Thank you. Thank you for being a part of the conversation again. I was I started telling them earlier that last time we were on a live together, you brought props to illustrate your point. And baby, I mean, it was everything. So do you have your props tonight?
I do have my props, so I'll use them as I see fit.
Okay, good, good. Let me tell you something. Well, I'll just let y'all see. So, okay, let's jump right in. Erica brought up a very good point about her clients, they're coming to see her and they just don't know what to do with everything that is going on. And so it really is a lot to unpack. And so I wanted to start out by just getting your thoughts on just candidly where you are with unpacking, or what is helping you to unpack. And certainly it's not a finished work, but what is helping you to, even on a daily basis, unpack the layers of everything that we're dealing with. Any one of you.
Okay. Well, I guess I'll go first. I think right now, the biggest thing that's hitting me is like, okay, Erica, you are a therapist, but like I just said earlier, like you are human and you are definitely impacted by all of this.
Yeah.
I am doing what I teach my clients all the time. I'm sitting in my feelings. I am allowing myself to really feel and deal with whatever's coming my way. I don't make apologies if I don't want to go out of the house on a certain day. Make apologies if I don't necessarily feel ready to be around certain types of people or whatever. I am just being honest in what it is that I feel. So I think that's the biggest thing that I've been doing during this time.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. That's good.
Yes, for me, it's some of the same, but also trying not to get lost in what I consider hyper productivity. I think sometimes I try to mask emotions and my anxiety and just overperforming and being productive. And so taking real intentional spaces to rest and, like Erica said, to feel. And I think yesterday was one of the days I was in the bed till like noon. My wife was like, "What's wrong?" I was like, "Nothing. I just want to be here in this space, not watching the news, not being consumed with everything. It's my happy place." So definitely being very, like I said, intentional, but real and right with what I'm feeling and how I need to express it in that moment, however it is, but also giving all of those, especially my family and my two boys, grace to still need me, because I know that there's an emotional pool, especially my boys, that they have. So finding space to be dad and to be jovial, but taking intentional moments to just be with me and, and everything that I'm feeling.
Wow. Wow. That's good. That's good. You have anything to add, Scott?
Yeah, so for me, I think a lot of it is making sure that I am just saving space for myself, making sure that I'm being very intentional about self-care, the things that I do as far as rest is concerned, and also giving myself space to even, I feel like this is my work. I've been very intentional about that, very verbal about feeling like this is my portion of the work. So what has helped me not become overwhelmed is saying that I understand that there's a lot of work to be done, but also understand that there's space for everybody at the table and whatever your expertise is. And so I'm kind of zeroing in on what my expertise is, what I can give my people back for free. That doesn't cost me anything. It's what I enjoy, and also how I help my people to heal. But also, even in that space of doing that work, understanding that I owe myself my joy. So the other day, I found myself not wanting to post this picture of a family moment, or of my wife and of some family doing something that we enjoy. We went to an art stroll or something, my wife and I was like, man, how dare I be out here having this joy while my people are going through. But I think that we need all of that, and we got to help our people find balance and joy, and understand that that's something that's been stolen from us, and we don't get to just be doom and despair all the time because we're going through. We are entitled to our joy. We absolutely deserve it. And I want us to help find our way back to our joy each and every day, because that's a part of what Black privilege should be. You should
Right.
be entitled to have your joy and not
Right.
feel bad because you ain't posting every moment about the march or the protest, the
Yeah.
shootings and all that other stuff. So finding my work, but also finding my joy in the midst of.
Yeah, yeah, that's good. That's good. Some of the comments that we have, Nilly says having an abundance mindset. Tibria says she's taking a lot of time away from social media and create a balanced place mentally, physically, and spiritually. Miss Hayes says, I owe myself joy. Love that. Very good. Michelle says we do deserve joy. And so I want to second everything that you guys said. For me, one of the things that I found myself doing was feeling like I always had to be doing something. And I think I was talking to another friend that's a social worker, and I said, I think that's a part of what made us social workers is because we felt like anytime there's like an injustice, we feel like we need to run to it and find solutions and be active and be on the front lines. And so I found myself becoming frustrated because I felt like I'm not doing enough. And even when I was doing something, I felt like, but this is nothing and it's small because there's still so much going on. And so, like you each have said, like I had to come back to the table because that will really drive you to a place of despair and hopelessness. And I found myself getting there and I had to say, you know what, Brandy, what can you offer? Nothing is too small at this point because there's still a way to go and everybody has a part to play and you have gifts and talents. Don't focus on what everybody else is doing or anything like that, but what can you specifically offer?
Yeah.
And so yeah, these are all some very good points, man. We have to definitely be intentional, especially in this time. Um One of the other questions is what mental and or emotional impact do you see that when we think about injustice and everything that's going on and we know that it is something that it goes very deep. What are some very basic ways that you think that this has emotionally affected us? Has it arrested our development as a people? How has it affected our mindset, even ways that we may not know? What are your thoughts about that?
Well, I would just say, I've been thinking about this all week. I think it just shows up as us being inferior, feeling inferior, because we're not inferior, but feeling inferior, and it's showing up in places as far as where we work. Like that's a big one, and just this whole anxiety, this anxiety of just not being sure. Some of us are hyper vigilant, meaning we want to make sure that we are okay at all points to the level of we can't even enjoy our lives anymore because we're just unsure. We're afraid. I think that it's showing up as depression for some of us, for a lot of us, probably now, because we had, everything that's happening with, of course, racial injustices. And then on top of that, Corona, like that is a lot to take in at one time. So I just think it's showing up as anxiety and for a lot of people, depression. And it's big and it's very saddening because a lot of us have not been going to therapy. And so because it's been a stigma around going to therapy. So now it's like, oh my goodness, I haven't been doing my work. And so now it's really here. I got to do something. And that could be very difficult.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. There are definitely layers. Like it's like everyday life and then COVID-19 and then everything else that's going on. So yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I think we're definitely seeing like compound trauma. Is definitely like trauma on top of trauma on top of trauma on top of trauma. And what I see on social media and what I hear my people say, my friends, a lot of times the way that they're identifying is you hear us say, I'm tired.
Yeah.
I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
I'm mentally drained. And I think we really are. And that's how it's showing up. And that's how you know that there is something going on where we all are registering all of these different like real-time traumas happening all at the same time. Everybody's talking about coronavirus, about uh, race-based trauma, about racial injustice. and then you have voter suppression, and then you have all these other things. You hear people talking about like the increase in domestic violence inside the household because people are having to be in the same place at the same time. And we are trying to figure out how in the hell do I navigate this new regular life? And it is literally and figuratively exhausting. Um, and of course we have to figure that out, but we also have to figure out ways that we can navigate around some things that don't have to make us tired. So for me, I've decided to remove a certain number of things that I just don't have to get involved with. So as it relates to racial injustice and the unrest and politics, there's certain things I'm not getting ready to engage in. I'm not getting ready to educate any other people about things that they can look up for themselves. I'm not going to get involved in political arguments about statue removals, about what company is doing what, if they're sincere about it. I'm not even getting ready to argue with people about Juneteenth, which was a lot of what was going on today. And also, I think you just have to know, like, we have to have energy for this fight. We are in the fight, and I think that is okay for you. Sometimes some of us are in this fight on this level, on this mental health level. Some of us are using our other platforms. People are putting out songs if that's what they do. Some people are just living, right? Just getting by in this moment. And I think that that's even okay for people, and you have to be okay with that much. And my thing lately has been making sure that we get to a point of thriving over surviving, right? But if today you're just surviving, you're just getting through the day without cussing anybody out, I think that that's okay. And we have to come back and then do the work and say, okay, well, is there anything that I can maybe add tomorrow that will help me, contribute to the work that has to be done? And even if tomorrow is just surviving, that within itself is still okay. You don't have to be exhausted like fighting these fights that are unnecessary fights with folks that really don't care about you.
Right. That's good. That's good stuff. Josh, did you want to add?
Yeah, I want to kind of expand what Scott was saying, that just with us being tired, I think part of that is that we don't ever seem to catch a break. And even when we find ourselves just living right here in Atlanta, this fake Wakanda, because it's not real. We're driving.
Wait, this ain't Wakanda? We're not in Wakanda? Wait a minute. Hold up. This ain't Wakanda. Josh, now you could have told me this off air. You gonna wait till we get on air to break this kind of news to me?
And I'm gonna tell you one reason why is because even when we're just existing, driving downtown, we are constantly reminded of markers of oppression. Allen Boulevard is named after a racist mayor who very openly created redlining, so much so that he built a wall where Black people could not penetrate to move into white neighborhoods. And the ironic part about that street is that it leads us to the Center for Civil and Human Rights. We have Grady Hospital, where a majority of Black and brown people have to go to receive care. That's also named after a starch racist. How many of our Jewish brothers and sisters are going to be admitted into Adolf Hitler Memorial? So it's like on a consistent basis, whether it's our healthcare, we're just driving down the street, even with the statues, while I am very with you, don't have the energy to keep explaining stuff because I'm not your consultant. Because after a while, you want to be educated, you're going to get an invoice. But even with I'm constantly always reminded of the trauma. I'm reminded of the oppression. So even going back to what we said in the beginning, we must have intentional spaces where we take back our joy, really live in it, and kind of separate ourselves, not from reality, but even if it's just a break for the moment, take our own breaks, because even just living, it seems like we don't get the chance to do that.
Wow. Listen, when I tell y'all we got an amen corner over here in these comments, I feel like I need to.
I'm about to throw my shoe.
Listen, throw the shoe. I feel like I should have had an organ player over here. Listen, y'all are going in, and I love it. Like this is real talk. Scott says, when we ask about feelings, Scott says a sense of outrage, sense of loss and depression, but we must rally around each other and pull together to push on. Absolutely. Neely says it's overwhelming. Absolutely, absolutely. Tibri is agreeing with Scott, creating our boundaries. Miss Verna says, mentally tired of seeing continued murders and mistreatment of Black people at the hands of authority, but I'm encouraged by the Rainbow Coalition of Races that are standing with us and saying that this is not okay. One of the things that my mom said to me, and my mom was a child around the time that Martin Luther King was murdered. One of the things that she said to me, and I asked her, I said, well, how are you? So, I mean, she sees everything that's going on, but I feel like she also has a calmness about her. And she's like, Brandy, I've lived this. Like, I understand. Like, I've lived this. And there were two things she said to me. Number one, she said, I feel like you guys are in a better position because you have the world watching. We didn't have the world watching for us. Well, they may have been watching, but we didn't have people in other countries marching or protesting for us. So I think you should be grateful for that. And another thing she said to me, and I know it was so innocent, she said, we had a Martin Luther King, but where's the Martin Luther King of your generation? Who is truly leading the movement? Who is the voice that is driving and that's going to get you guys to where you need to be? And when she said that, it really made me think, like, is this a situation where we're gonna have somebody who's going to be that forerunner, or like you all have mentioned, are we all just called at this time to take our piece of the pie? And this is going to be a work that's going to require all of us. We're not going to have one person who's at the forefront. It's going to require everybody using their gifts and their talents and taking up whatever it is that they are supposed to, whatever their purpose is in this fight. We're all going to have to find that and put that forward to towards the movement. What do you guys think about that?
I'll say
I
that.
totally agree. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I'll say that what I really appreciate about the up and coming generation,
Mm-hmm.
that they're not waiting on any leader. Um,
Yes.
they're jumping out here in these streets. They are really taking control, I think, of their destiny, and
Mm.
are really taking the torch and saying that, and understanding something that I think the generation that's us, like, right, late 30s, early 40s, looking for this leader, and they're saying we don't need one. And then I think they're,
Mm.
in a sense, to me, are coming back and grabbing us and saying, hey, y'all, come on. Like, we have exactly what we need in order to do this work. And the thing now is the revolution absolutely will be televised. Right? And
Listen.
when I tell you, I do a little praise dance every time one of these folks lose their job because they out here acting a fool. And when I tell you, Black Twitter will jump on you and post where you work, all right? Email your boss. And at
Listen.
the end of the workday, we will have
Right.
information on whether or not you have retained employment, if you've been suspended. And this is what I mean when I say we all have our place in this work, and there's room for a seat at the table. I think some of the old school thinking kept us believing that we needed one leader, we needed one single Black agenda, we needed one set of rules for everybody to go by, and we were all waiting for all Black people to agree on this one thing. And what we're understanding now is everybody has their expertise. Everybody has their part in this work. If you do finances, then help Black folks learn how to get loans. If you do therapy, then offer up some of your services pro bono, or offer your services to Black people. Do forums like this, right? Go into schools. Friends that I have that do Black art, they use their buildings and their forums to bring kids in to teach them about art. All of these things will help us get to where we need to go, and it's not one way. There is no single Black agenda. We have to look at all of those things and say, where is my work in this, and let me jump in and do my thing. If I don't want to go out and protest, then I'm gonna donate to some bail funds, right? Because I'm not getting out there in the streets. Know what you can do. Jump in and do that work, and start waiting on where our leader at. where is this person going to emerge from? It is you.
Inside of us, right?
Right.
On the inside of us. Yeah, absolutely. Erica, did you want to?
I agree with that. Yeah, I was just gonna say I think it's important that kind of like Scott said, we kind of figure out what our lane is and go from there. But I think it's important, and this is something for us within our community. Like we have to be willing to share. We have to be willing to be open to share whatever our gifts or our talents are without this expectation of, well, I need to be paid for this, and I need to do this, and I need to do that. Like you are gifted to do a certain thing. You are gifted to help bring about change. Be okay with using it. But sometimes we within ourselves, we operate in a crab in a bucket mentality, which is huge. And it kind of limits us coming together and sharing our gifts to promote this particular change. I just think that we gotta be okay with sharing and knowing that there is enough for every one of us.
Right.
Erica, that's it's interesting you said that, because I was listening to a podcast maybe a week and a half ago, and one of the leaders of Black Lives Matter was talking about the Ferguson protest. And she was really just explaining how everybody won't be on the front line. Everybody won't be the voice of even those organizations. But there are people who can, to Scott's point, who are gifted in finances, who are just good researchers and policymakers, and, can be on the back line. And one of the greatest stories they talked about was this older lady who cooked them dinner every single night and gave them lunch, because one, she realized, like, y'all can't be running from the cops with all this processed food, this McDonald's and stuff. Y'all need some good nourishment.
Yeah, right.
But she also opened up her home for reprieve. She cooked like Thanksgiving dinner when some of them stayed over throughout the holidays because they were no longer with their families. And I think even moments like that, where there may not be one voice, I think Black is the movement. Black is the voice. All out there together. So even if it is Big Mama who's providing, the dinners and the water and whatever, like, she's important, because she's providing the nourishment and the energy. Or even if it's, like you said, forums like these, or just even creatives creating shirts and creating phrases and sayings that are not always $55 to profit, off of what's going on. But just figuring out what we're gifted to do, what our talents are, and taking that utility and putting it back into the earth. So I don't know that we will have another Martin Luther King, as great as he was. I don't know that we'll have another Malcolm X, but I do think what we're seeing now is the emergence of all the Abernathys and everybody who was, on the side now pushing forward and really pushing the movement. So if we're looking for a soul voice, I think we're going to be lost and be looking forever. But I really think Black is the movement. Black is the voice. And
Black is the voice.
As long as we stand together and really bring everything we got within our communities, then there's legit no stopping us.
Wow.
That's good.
I mean, listen, this is so good. A whole amen corner over here again in the comments. Like, you guys are really, like, just really helping me, like, as far as like shifting my mindset already about this thing, and even me being able to take my place in this movement. And I know that you're helping a lot of others as well. So we need to get Black is the Movement on some t-shirts. So Josh, I'm gonna need you to get that appropriately trademarked, copyrighted, or whatever you got to do. So we're gonna need you to work on that.
We'll work on that.
So let's dive into, when we talk about trauma, I feel like trauma is a word that has been so heavily used, especially as we've awakened to mental health and mental health awareness. And so one of the things that, I tell my clients is that trauma is something that is very specific to an individual. There is no right or wrong when it comes to it. What may be traumatic for one person may not be traumatic for another person. And so my definition, and this is just my definition, but I want you all to kind of give your definition as well. So I always advise when someone asks me, hey, well, Brandy, how do you define trauma? I say trauma is anytime you experience any type of situation or challenge in which the situation or challenge exceeds your ability to cope. So whatever is your coping mechanism, your ability to just deal and to stay at a fairly mental and emotional, at a mentally and emotionally well place, when sometimes you can experience something that just simply exceeds your ability to cope. You just don't have it. You're not able to. What often happens is that we go into a fight or flight response, and that is a protective mechanism. But what ends up happening is when we're no longer in that danger, then that fight or flight response is still happening to us. And so that's when we're getting trauma responses, because you're no longer in that situation, but your brain and your mind and your body are responding as if you are, even when you are not, right? And so I want you all to go around and define, when we talk about trauma, and even when we talk about trauma in this particular time, what does that bring up for you? Look, that sounds so therapeutic. What does that bring up for you? But what is that? How do you define that? Or when you hear that, what do you think about? When you hear the word trauma, what do you think about?
Goodness, the first thing I think about is just a deeply disturbing and distressing experience that will sometimes, if not all times, attack every area of your life: spiritual, emotionally, mentally, financially. It just shows up, and we don't necessarily have the appropriate coping skills to overcome it. We have no idea, we have no idea what to do with this thing, and it's kind of like you said, even when that particular situation has passed, it's still going on within our bodies. It's still showing up in our physical health. It's still showing up in our mental health. So I just feel like it's just a deeply disturbing experience that a lot of us, most of us, probably all of us have gone through. And we just got to figure out what to do with it. We just don't know what to do with it.
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah, I agree. One particular way it shows up for me, or has shown up, is the minimization of who I am. And I think it comes from this protective kind of ancestral thing where, I can't be too this because they're going to think that, or I can't be too that. And it's traumatizing in the sense, because I went to like a black high school, inner city, like, you know what I'm saying? There was one white girl in the whole school.
Wow.
There were moments, because I was the smart kid, right? I was pushed into environments and to programs where a lot of people didn't look like me. So there was a lot of questioning of who I am. So sometimes I had to balance, like, either proving myself or either living up to this urban guy while still being like, I can be smart too. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Of, like I said, minimization of who I really was. And even as I've navigated adulthood, still trying to figure out what their journey is, and in different spaces, being super authentic to my blackness, being degreed after degreed after degree, and admitting that I like my chicken wings fried hard with lemon pepper sprinkles on them. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, come on now.
So I think in that, you know what I'm saying, trying to figure out my trauma is the trauma of figuring out the duality of my blackness, where I can be all of these different things and still be black and okay with that. And sometimes I think a lot of us are not okay. As much as we are bold and we're representing, I still think some of us, especially us in corporate America, that's a whole nother conversation.
Oh yeah.
Struggling with, am I okay presenting all of me like this? And it is a mind battle. So it's really this kind of psychology thing that goes on, you know what I'm saying, that really impacts, your thinking, that goes into your presentation and just, all of it. So that's my trauma, you know what I'm saying?
Right. That's so good. I want to piggyback here, and then we'll go to Scott. I did an interview last week with a magazine from my alma mater. I went to a PWI. And so, which is a predominantly white institution. And there was, of course, a smaller population of African Americans. And Josh, I totally identify with even going to college. One of the things that the gentleman asked me was, well, what was your experience like attending college? And how are you tying all that in with everything that's happening right now? Like, he wanted to know that aspect of it. Like, looking back at your college experience and what's going on now, like, what is your take on it? And now I realize that there were definitely moments where I felt at times intimidated, and it wasn't because anybody did anything to me, but like you said, it was just being in that in the environment. Do I belong here? I think a part of me had that imposter syndrome. Do I even belong here? You know, is it, you know, am I smart enough to be here? Is it going to be uncovered that I'm not even smart enough to be at this college, you know what I'm saying, or at this university? And so I definitely identify with that. Like, and now thinking back on it, like, I see how all of that played out. And I think even as we went to college and we achieved certain things and we went into corporate America, I feel like maybe for a lot of us, we thought that we have made it. Like, I have finally reached a level where any doubt that you had about me as an African American is gone because I have achieved certain things. But then you realize, like, wait a minute, that's not true. That's not the truth. It still is what it is. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I can definitely understand where you're going with that, Josh. Scott, do you want to chime in?
Just a little bit. So I
Okay.
think for me, where my trauma has showed up for me has been when I've built this very nice and well framed system that involves me having all of these skills and my book knowledge and all these other things, and then some life event happens that makes me question my enoughness. And that will bring up all kinds of trauma for me. That within itself is traumatizing because I pride myself on being prepared, on knowing what it is that I know. And then regular ass life happens to Scott Hayes, the licensed clinical social worker who has all of this book knowledge. And it is my trauma and it is traumatizing for me to be in a situation where I have all of this book knowledge. It's the equivalent for me of failing an open book test.
Wow.
Of knowing how to do this stuff, having 20 years of expertise in it, and then regular life happening to me and me not being able to put into practice the stuff that I sell every day. And that's how my trauma shows up. That's what trauma is for me. It's that again, like Erica said, that deeply disturbing, distressing. I do not know what I'm doing for myself. So how can I help other people? It's that thing that makes you question, am I enough?
Listen.
Do I know what the hell I'm talking about? Am I truly an imposter here?
Right. Listen, that imposter syndrome is something else.
It's so real.
It is.
Like,
it's
I think
real.
we forget.
It's real.
Like, I mean, I think we forget that we cannot heal ourselves. Like, we think that as therapists, you know, and as influencers or what have you, we think like I have the answers because people pay me for my coaching or my therapy or what have you. And then, like you said, regular life happens, and it's like, okay, what am I supposed to do with this? You know? So yeah, that
I totally
imposter
agree with
syndrome.
that.
Yeah, man, it's real.
That's
real.
That's so real, even from a faith-based perspective, right? Because I'm a preacher, but even in all of this, I've struggled really, like, God, where are you? You know what I'm saying? Where are you at, bro? And having to, even today, I was at a rally and was pulled on because they trust my voice and let's speak to this. And I'm like, I don't have a lot to say. And it was, we talked about some of the leaders of the movement. It was my grandma who had to encourage me, to say that in the midst of it all, Josh, God is still real. And even talking through it with her, trying to figure out how can you make that declaration and God is seemingly not present.
Ooh, I'm just gonna black my screen out for a little minute. I need to have me a little moment. I'm just gonna disappear for y'all. Just go ahead. I'm about to have me a little moment real quick. Go ahead, Josh. Go ahead.
Legit, after processing with her, what I gathered from the conversation was that just because he's silent does not mean that he's not sovereign. So
Right.
finding
All
ways
right.
to
Come
really
on.
activate my faith. So like to Scott
Yeah.
says, I can have all the scriptures in the world, but right now, this is the manifestation of it. This is the
Yeah.
tangible part of it. This, like, I have the resources, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
how can I implore them outside of, you know what I'm saying, an encouraging Facebook post or talking to a friend through something? How can Josh be encouraged? How can I be David and encourage myself, right? In this,
Yeah.
it seems like these scriptures ain't working, God. What you taught me ain't working. What I've learned all these years in church is not working. But stepping out and literally just taking the faith that I have, that unseen thing, and putting it out there and be like, you know what? All I got is the water to walk on. I'm gonna walk on it because that's
Yeah.
all I got left. That's all I
That's
got.
it.
Karma has left me with nothing else but faith. So all I got to do right now is believe.
That's it. That's it. Listen, Miss Hayes says she has gone into a Holy Ghost dance over here. um, I mean, this is for real. Natasha said trauma, it to me is dealing with something that has happened to you that you try to suppress, but if it is not treated, it can affect you in so many areas of your life. So absolutely, absolutely. Yesenia says, then there's the complexity of returning to my hometown and having to justify my growth, and people say you're acting white. Now that's that right there in itself. That is a whole conversation, a whole conversation. Verna says trauma makes you hypersensitive and question what you previously believed to be fact. I want to throw this in there. Hakeem says even when we overachieve, that trauma still exists. Absolutely. Absolutely. Hey, Vernique. Vernique said, first of all, shout out. She said, I've never met a male LCSW, so that's dope. Vernique says, yes, we must lean into his sovereignty. He is alive and active even now. And she says, just reiterating what Josh said about trauma leaving us with nothing but faith. And kind of piggybacking off of that subject of trauma, one of the things that one of the terms that we've heard often is the term of gaslighting. And I think it's so relevant because gaslighting is literally it's a term from a movie. I think the movie was produced in the 1960s where it was a husband and a wife, and the husband literally tried to drive the woman crazy. Like he or tried to drive her insane. Like he would literally there, like the lights would be flickering and she would be like, the lights are flickering. He'd be like, no, they're not. What are you talking about? Like literally causing her to question what she was seeing with her own eyes. And I think that perhaps one of the, and I shared this with Scott earlier, I think one of the things that has been most triggering for me, and especially when everything first started kind of rising to the surface, was our thoughts and our feelings being minimized, because it's like I'm experiencing this and I'm living this as an African American, and you're telling me, no, it's not really that serious. No, that's not really how it happened. No, they didn't really mean it that way. They didn't really mean to do that. That's gaslighting, fam. Like we are experiencing this and we're seeing things with our own eyes. And I think for me, when we talk about like things being traumatic, I think for me in the beginning, that was what affected me the most, was having the experience and what we are seeing on national television being played down or being explained away as if it's nothing, when my mind and my body are sending off all types of alarms and telling me that there is something that is very, very wrong. And so I wanted to just get your thoughts about that.
Well, I can start off on that. I think that we have to really look at the history.
Mm-hmm.
And while you were talking, I was thinking about Willie Lynch and the making of a slave. And that entire letter, every time I run across it, it just sends all kind of chills through my bodies, because this thing is real. This thing has been systematic for us. And one of the things that was a part of that letter was, hey, we make the slaves trust us. Like, you are to trust us. You're supposed to trust the white man. And so I really feel like that is still kind of embedded in our minds. Maybe aside from us radicals, people that are deciding to speak out and say, you know what, I do feel this and this is real, but for some of us, it's kind of like, well, maybe they're right. maybe it's not that bad. And I just feel like we've got to really look at where the start of this stuff came from. You know, a lot of times we forget about the history of it and how it's really been embedded into our minds, into our hearts. And it's like, okay, we can do the work today, the surface work. It's so much deeper than that. It's so much deeper than that. I mean, I have in my past, and I thought about this, and I was like, oh, that's so bad, Erica. That's so bad. I would think about, you know, maybe patronizing a business. And because of this trust factor that's been embedded in my mind through over the years and through history, I would say, you know what, I don't want to go to a Black business. I'm gonna go to a white business. I think that, you know, they gonna do it better. And that is just so wrong. But when I think about it, where did that come from? Who told me that is the right thing? And so I just think we got to really look into our history. That's my thought on that.
Yeah. Wow. Good stuff. Scott, Josh, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, so, you know, well, I have a couple of different thoughts. So I really believe that anybody who enters into my space, right, you have to present here as an ally, right? And a part of being an ally in regard to being in relationship, any type of relationship with Scott Hayes, means that you do not get to deny what my experience is. And when people are gaslighting you, the number one thing that they're doing is attempting to negate your experience or attempting to get you to see or experience life through their lens, or to minimize what your light is, right? Darkness in and of itself is not a thing. It's the absence of a thing. So you don't get to tell me that my light does not exist, right? My light is here. This is the way that I've experienced the world. And if you are here and attempting to be in relationship with me, then at baseline, we honor each other's experiences. And when you start gaslighting and trying to tell me that that's not real, that didn't happen, the world is not what you see in front of your face, that's not allyship. And I'm not here for anything that exists outside of allyship. If you're here in order to help make a contribution here rather than a withdrawal, because I don't do people who just withdraw, right? So I'm not here to educate you. If you're here and you're presenting as an ally and you want to know what my experience is so that you can honor it and so that we can be in a relationship that exists within the realm of mutual respect and everything that involves unconditional positive regard, then we can be in relationship. If you're presenting outside of that realm, then we cannot be in relationship. There is no room for allyship. There's no room for friendship, and that ship has sailed. Is over with.
Scott said the ship is gone. Listen,
it's Scressful with a K, and I can't do Scressful no more. I'm done with that part of it. If we can be in relationship and we can honor each other's experiences, then we can learn from each other and we can grow and we can be better. Anything that involves me negating you or you negating me or my experiences, it ain't gonna work.
Yeah. Wow.
That is so true. And even beyond our white folk, I think the most discouraging gaslighting comes from other POCs. And because they love to hide behind this general umbrella of people of color until it's time to do something for Black folk. And I will never dismiss, like Scott says, your experience, your own level of discrimination and prejudice. But what we must be real about is that my Black experience is still very, very, very different than yours. So if you come in my face talking about, well, man, people of color, no. Black folk got it this way. Black folk got it that way. And you need to be able to understand that while we all POCs, I intentionally say I'm a Black person because I understand that my presentation and my experience is very different. So while, and I guess the sad part is that I've come to expect it from white people. And, you know, like Erica said, some of us are radical. We call it out, you know, and we do some of the surface work and, you know, all those type of things. But it is my Asian colleagues, it is my Hispanic colleagues, it is my Native American colleagues, and any other person that identifies under this umbrella POC that's trying to generalize my experience and
Yeah.
generalize what I'm going through, and it's just
Yeah.
not the same. You know what I'm saying? And the moment we can be united in being an ally, or what I like to call an accomplice, because if you really want to do the work, I need you really working.
Yeah.
But also to understand the differentiation between this general POC thing and me being black, me being a black man, a black husband, a black father for black women and black mothers. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Experience is different, and it's not until you recognize that. You know, I don't need you to live it because you can't live it, but recognize and respect it.
Yeah. 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 Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Oh, good stuff. I'm going to the comments, y'all. Um, Natasha says it is trying to control, going back to gaslighting, is trying to control a person's mind, and we must never let anyone gain control of our minds. When they have our minds, they have taken full control of us. Absolutely. Bernique said, I think she was piggybacking off of Scott, setting boundaries and keeping those boundaries. And we talked about having unconditional positive regard. Um, Institutions and politicians have weaponized data and statistics, using it for gaslighting. Listen, we're not even going to talk about the statistics that we ain't even. Yes, ma'am. You have hit the nail on the head. That's another conversation. Let's see here. Yes, absolutely. That part, facts. Yes. So I wanted, as you guys were talking, I thought about an experience that I had when I was in college. I went for a job interview, and I remember I interviewed for the job, and it was an African American woman who interviewed me. And I'll never forget, one of the things that she told me was that the person who had left the job was a Caucasian, and she was also a college student. And she said, we typically, the last time we hire a black girl, she didn't do her job. You know how that works, right? Like, she just came in and she didn't, she played on her phone all day, and she was just very like loud. She didn't get anything done. So yeah, we typically don't, but you know how black people can be, right? And I went, and on the drive home, I was like, that is so disturbing that she felt okay telling me that. And then it was even more disturbing that I did not have the courage to tell her that that was wrong. That I sat there and I felt like, because she was in somewhat of a position of authority, because she was interviewing me, right? I didn't have the courage to tell her that that was highly inappropriate for her to tell me that. And it was hurtful to see another sister telling me that. And then it was like, what was her purpose in telling me that? You know what I mean? And so she called me like 2 hours later and said, well, Miss Stinson, we wanted to, let you know that you got the job. We want to bring you on. And I told her, I said, I'm good. I don't want it. Because by that time I had really processed what had happened. And I was like, if that's your mindset, and going back to what you said, Erica, like, a lot of people do have that mindset when it comes to us and other people of color. And we have to, like, this work is so many different layers, and we really have to examine what our mindsets are, and what they have been, even on an individual level. So yeah, this is deep, man. Like, we got a lot of work to do, basically. I'm going to go. Vernique says having to hold your tongue in spaces where there is a power differential is also traumatic. Yeah, it definitely can be, for sure. For sure. Are you guys able to see the comments as well?
No, we can't see it.
No. Okay.
No.
Oh man, I'm sorry. I've been leaving y'all out. Bernique says, why does it have to be a black girl? Why couldn't she just be a trash employee on her own? They created a whole system based on experience. That's it. Absolutely. I agree. I will never forget that. Like, there's a lot of things that I do and do not remember about college, but let me tell you, that's something that I will never forget. Ever, ever, ever. Tosh says she was brainwashed by white colleagues to think all black women won't work. Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. So, all right. So
Can I comment on that?
Okay, come on.
Well, I just want to talk about real quick this idea of assimilation. where we kind of, as Black people, we just kind of go with the culture that we think is the one on the horizon, the better culture. And I kind of see this from that comment that was just shared. You know, they kind of brainwashed her to believe this about her Black sister. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like, that part right there, I think more than anything, that becomes very dangerous when we're talking about Black being the movement, right? And so I think that we got to be very mindful of this assimilation thing. Have we adopted these mindsets about our very own people? You know, have we abandoned what we know to be true about ourselves so that we can take on this other cultural frame of thought? It's just something that came up. Just
I want to jump in there because I want to talk about something this not all that recent of a revelation, but still I feel like it's something that we need to discuss, right? So a couple of years ago, I actually taught a class to some young people about code switching, and right now I know that I'll never do that again. And number two, this whole idea that we have of what code switching is, right? And code switching is basically rooted in this idea that we are Black and we talk this way around our friends. And when we get to work, we have to talk this other way and we have to operate in our expertise and this other thing. And what I'm noticing, I was talking to my wife about this the other day, is that code switching almost promotes this idea that white is right, right? And you have to speak like them and operate like them to be in their spaces. And it goes back to like how we reinforce our own not enoughness. And when we do that, and when we teach our people that type of thing, because code switching is well known amongst all of us, whether we know what it actually is, we do it. We get in it, we'll be on the phone with our homeboy going into the office and be talking about how we're going to chop it up later and how we're going to do all these other things, how we're going to kick it this weekend, and get in the elevator, going up to your floor. And, hi, Josh, how was your weekend? You know, and it's this, who I am is not enough, right? And that I need to assimilate in order to be in this world when I can really be myself. That within itself is traumatizing because I got to be this person at home with my family. I got to be this other person when I go here. And then I got to go to work and be a whole different other person. And I got to try to make all of those things mesh together. And really, who the hell am I? Who am I supposed to be in this space? And when do I get to be me? So you getting ready to get all of Sky Hayes. You getting ready to get these 2 earrings that are in my ear. You probably getting ready to get a cuss word or 2.
Or 3.
Or 3. I try to limit myself, but you know, whatever it is, you're gonna get, but you're gonna get my expertise. It's gonna be the only thing that I'm mixing in is gonna be my authentic self. I'm gonna give you a disclaimer that it comes with my own life experience, and I'm gonna try to tell you that, hey, this is me. This is what I have experienced. I'm not saying that this is the way that you should live your life, but this is how I live. This is how I enjoyed my weekend with my friends. This is what we did. I'm not switching it up for nobody. Because again, that leads to this exhaustion that we have, right? And there's so many things that we have to do right now in this work that I ain't got time to be trying to be somebody else for you. Like I'm showing up as best I can in this space. And I'm doing everything up in here not to flip every table y'all own in here.
Right.
So let me come in here and be my authentic self.
Right.
That's so good. And I think it was my most recent corporate experience that made me stop code switching. One reason was because I worked in a small office in Atlanta full of all men, and I was like the only Black dude there. So oftentimes I felt this pressure not to be me. But then there was I remember one day we were leaving lunch and it just broke. And they were talking about some music they were listening to, and it was some white band. And they asked me, and they threw in like Jay-Z and stuff to kind of bring me into the conversation. I just ignored it. But then they went back to, I think it was, what's that girl name? The evil one, not Katy Perry, but Taylor Swift. That one. They brought her up. They were just talking about how great her music was, and like, Josh, do you know Taylor Swift? I'm like, I'm familiar with who she is. You like music? I was like, no. They was like, why not? I said, I really haven't listened to it. And they was like, well, why not? I said, because I'm disinterested. And and that was it. Like, I didn't have to put on a facade for you. I don't want to listen to her music. It doesn't make me hate white people, but that ain't what I want to listen to. And frankly, I don't want to talk about Jay-Z with you either, because you're only bringing it up because you feel like I know it. And to be honest, I didn't really hit the Jay-Z train until about 5 years ago, because I didn't really grow up listening to a lot of rap. So you don't know my experience. You're generalizing my blackness. And you know what I'm saying? It's all these assumptions that we feel like sometimes we have to live up to, that is not necessary. So going back to Scott's point, like, I think the reason why we've been so conditioned to code switch is because we do have this white is good, black is bad, but also because there's this expectation from the other side that they have this one view of what blackness is. And blackness is so vast and it's so diverse. And that's the beauty of it, that, you know what I'm saying, I could be the one who loved the mumble rap from Future and still appreciate my brother who want to say F the cops and shoot him in the chest with Ice Cube in them. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't have to be this one version of black, but whatever version you get, you better be dang on sure it's gonna be me. So that means if I want watermelon at my desk for breakfast, you're gonna get this watermelon with some salt sprinkled on top. You know what I'm saying? Like, whatever it is, like, I'm not buying into your stereotypes. I'm not, buying into any of those kind of things. I'm going to be authentically me, because this is how I choose to live my life, and that is okay.
Right.
And it's going to always be okay.
Right. And I think that's the beauty of this experience, is that we are really starting to not only realize our identity, but really step even more confidently in it, and really be proud of who we are. Like, that's the beauty of it. Like, the struggle is real, but I think that it's so beautiful that we're really starting to come into our own. And, even though I don't like the fact that it's taken all of this, I do think I'm grateful for the parts of it that is strengthening our identity. Like you said, Josh, like, you're gonna get me, fam, with watermelon with the salt sprinkled on the top. Okay. Like, whatever that is, you gonna get all of who I am. And I'm not code switching and trying to be and look like anybody else except for me in my fullness. So absolutely. So this question, and we have about 2 more questions. How has race-based trauma impacted how we deal even in our relationships? How does that play out in how we deal, whether it's romantic relationships or platonic relationships, our professional relationships? How does that play out in our mindsets as we're engaging with other people even?
I think for me, it's made me be more mindful of my folk, more mindful and more intentional about checking on them, and even Black people that I see in passing, I'm truly wanting to know how you are. It's not a how you doing. It's that second part that I say, no, how are you? Like, how are you coping? I'm really asking that question, like, what's going on? How is this impacting you? Let's have these conversations. Let's talk about how we're being impacted as Black people. How is this playing? How is this showing up in my family? Right? How is it showing up amongst my friend group? How are we really and truly coping? I think one of the things that's really done my spirit well is that I'm noticing my people just be more mindful of each other. When we see each other out, we really like giving some, it's not a passing, I get some looks that say, I see you, and when I get that head nod, it's a, I see you. It's these unspoken comforts of Blackness that I enjoy so much. When I tell you, I've seen all the Juneteenth t-shirts, I've seen all my people dip in, and where we would really be tearing each other down for not knowing what Juneteenth is, people putting up a message to say, this is what it is. It's okay if you don't know. Come on in. And we're here, right? And telling those folks who even act like they allies, like, you want to be invited to the cookout, shout it, is the cookout. This is where we doing the work at.
This is where it's at right here.
But being mindful of all those things and of people who really want to be in your space and having those conversations that say, hey, I care about you. I'm holding space for you. and
Yeah.
extending some grace for you if we misstep over each other, and doing some internal correction without fighting, because we become exhausted when we fight each other when
Yeah.
we are on the same team.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That's good stuff.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Tasha said it's like when Obama got elected. Listen, it almost made me shout right there. Listen, let me tell y'all something. I had a whole nother attitude when Obama got elected. Like, it was just a whole nother thing. Like you said, it was just this unspoken, like, yeah, like you pass somebody on the street, like, yeah, we did that, fam. Like, we got him in there. Like,
Yeah.
he is in there. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, it's a beautiful thing, man. People have really, I was telling a friend earlier, I was like, man, we've really shown up for Juneteenth, man. This has been amazing. Like, as a matter of fact, if y'all hear some fireworks go off, like, the people in my neighborhood have already gone in the group chat. Like, we just letting y'all know we sending it off on tonight. Like, we doing our July 4th fireworks tonight. So if you hear some popping and banging and all of that, it's nobody's shooting. It's just my neighbors have decided that they setting it off for real tonight. So
When
yes.
when Scott talked about the cookout, it made me think about how I do relationships. I am a lot more intentional now about keeping the proper spaces very sacred.
Yeah.
And it's just like, if you ain't with it, you ain't with it. You know what I'm saying? And we don't have the capacity, you know what I'm saying, to, again, to Scott's point, to be explaining to a whole bunch of folk what it is, but doing the internal work. So while we all here in the cookout, right, let's talk. You know what I'm saying? Because if you don't understand, it is not my job right now to expose you. It is my job right now to educate you, to put you on, to make sure that, you know what I'm saying, we're doing all that we can together, holding my brothers accountable by how we treat our women, having necessary conversations with everybody, so that we can have, we can understand our experiences. Because, you know what I'm saying, even though I am Black, I understand my privilege as a cisgendered man. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes checking that and being able to sit in that, you know what I'm saying, being accountable to sometimes knowing that I'm not always right. I don't always get it right. So making sure that the sacred spaces are sacred, and not necessarily hiding anything or sweeping dirt under the rug, but also being intentional with our own community, and making sure if we're going to be in this cookout, that we use it in ways to educate, to inform, to live. Going back to our earlier comment with Erica, utilizing our gifts at the cookout, you know what I'm saying? Registering our brothers and sisters to vote, informing them about healthcare, informing them about finances, helping them out with their traumas, all of these different spaces. So I've been much, much, much more intentional about how I share and how I interact, and understanding the real sacredness of my bonds and relationships, specifically with my kinfolk, who may be my skinfolk, but for real, my kinfolk. You know what I'm saying? Understanding that sacredness.
Yeah. That's good.
That's good.
I think one of the things for me, even on a very basic level, has been understanding that even the people in my most immediate circle, that there are days and times that they don't have the capacity to carry my stuff. So not being offended if I need to talk, and or I have something going on and they're dealing too. And and sometimes we can tend to become offended because we're like, but fam, you're supposed to be my friend. Like, I'm supposed to be able to call you and we talk this thing out. But if they say, like, hey, and giving them the space to say, and having those conversations where they can say, hey, I just can't do it today. Like, I am emotionally spent and I just can't carry your stuff today. My hands are full. Maybe tomorrow, but I really need to get myself together today, and not taking that personal, and understanding that just like I'm going through stuff, going through regular life and COVID-19 and social, fighting for social justice, they're doing the same thing. And so just giving them the space to um, tell me no when they don't have the capacity for my stuff at that particular time. So I think that has been a game changer for me during this time, for sure.
Yeah, I agree with that, B, because that even happened today. I was going through a few little things, and I'm like, let me just call my best friend. And it hit me as soon as I sent the text just to see if she was available. It was like, wait, let me ask her if she has the capacity to hear what I got going on today.
Yeah.
And when I asked her, she said, not really. And I had to be okay with that.
Yeah.
You know, I think with all of this going on, I think it really has us, I think it's going to allow us to do a lot more self-reflection, because almost always it's like, okay, let's reach out to somebody when I'm going through something.
Yeah.
Sometimes the answers are just in, you know what I mean? And just being able to be quiet
Yeah.
and allowing yourself to deal on your own.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. Yeah, it's definitely a learning experience. And I think especially because we are talking and pouring out all day long in our sessions with clients, whether it's coaching, therapy, or what have you. And so having that space, to allowing others that space to deal. And also, like you said, sometimes we do need to be by ourselves. We don't want to because we don't like it. But sometimes we really do need to be by ourselves and really process, like, or get in touch with where we are mentally and emotionally with everything that's happening.
Yeah.
So good stuff. Good stuff. My next question is, how do we move forward from this space towards healing? And anytime I've done or been a part of a mental health discussion, it's like a never ending discussion that we could probably have forever and ever and ever, because it's so deep. But how do we move forward, man? Like, what's next? Like, are we just gonna chill here for a little bit and just deal with the trauma and just try to make it through each day? Like, what should be our next steps? Because I think it was you, Josh, who said, I think it was Josh or Scott, one of y'all said, yeah, I'm sure both of y'all said, something similar, but we have to get to the point to where we're able to fight. We still have to have strength for the fight, because we do have a road ahead of us. So how do we tackle our own, or take responsibility for our mental and emotional wellness during this time? What are some very practical things that we can do? What's a starting place for anybody that may be watching, and they may be feeling hopeless or maybe feeling overwhelmed? What's a good starting place?
I'll say
Well,
for
I
me.
would say,
Go ahead, Erica.
okay, okay, I would say, just really very simplistic, allowing yourself to feel, you know. We have mastered the art of distraction. And I think that it's very important that we just deal with what we got going on. I will say this, it's very important that don't just sit there forever. Some of us have a tendency to just sit for days and weeks and months and even years. But I would say, have yourself a moment.
Yeah.
Be in that experience.
Yeah.
And don't feel bad about not being okay.
Yeah.
I think that's like the biggest thing, just sitting with your feelings and being okay with that.
Yeah. So not judging yourself because of how you feel or where you are. Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Very good. Good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. For me, I have this idea of, like, I get to I'm saying this over and over again to people that I love, and also to myself, is that I get to be both and, right, and none of these things that are happening with all this compound trauma do I have to pick either or. I get to be both and. I get to be uh, my human self, and to understand my humanity, and to honor it, to honor the way that I feel. If it's pissed off, if it's I feel, traumatized by seeing another person killed on TV, another black man, another black woman. I get to be that, sit with that for a minute, and also come back and maybe apply my knowledge and my skills to it. But in the moment, I get to be just what I am. I get to be hurt. I get to be upset. I get to have the tears that come as a result of just my humanity. Right? I get to do both of those things. I don't have to pick this one thing over the other thing. I don't get to reprimand myself. I get to save space for those feelings, and to give myself grace for feeling the way that I feel, and also then to do something about it. But if I can't do nothing about it on Friday night because I ain't feeling that, because I need to stew with that for just a moment and figure out what my path to healing is going to be, then that's okay too.
Yeah.
I get to be not okay in this moment and do something about it on tomorrow, right? I get to go and march and then come home and do nothing for a little while. I get to this idea that there has to be one path to healing, and that the way that I get to healing should be the way that you get to healing. It's just not a real thing. I'm
Yeah.
both and, not either or, in any capacity of my life. And those things will be okay. And I get to find my own way. And then when I find my own way, I get to shine my light, but also accept that that doesn't have to be the next person's path. I can share that information and not believe that it has to be the next person's path, or get pissed off with them when I give them advice and they don't take it.
Yeah. 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 Absolutely. Absolutely. So it sounds like also you're allowing the complexity of the healing process to be what it is.
Mhm.
Like you're accepting that healing can be a very complex thing, and you're not judging yourself when it is complex. There are layers to it.
Mhm. Not judging myself and not judging anybody else. And I think that's the part that we have of giving grace to other folks as well. Right. This it ain't your path. You're not learning at the same rate that I'm learning. You're not understanding at the same rate that I'm understanding. And I don't know what else that you got going on that has caused you to be in this space. There have been several moments where I've been talking to my wife and I thought I had it together, and I just started crying, just started weeping for the loss of joy and the loss of just being able to be on easy street. Nobody can decide for you when it's time for you to look up a resource, to call your therapist. It's all about what your boundaries are and what your threshold is for when you need to, dial in, when I need to access a lifeline.
Yeah.
So that same grace that I have for you, I'm going to get to myself. That same grace that I have to myself, I need to extend to other people.
Right. Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's good stuff. Very good. Very good stuff. Josh, did you want to add?
Yeah, just quickly, because I agree with both Erica and Scott, but I think another part of it is, and it's kind of been discussed, it's just finding or understanding what your next actionable step is, and then mitigating the range of emotions with those steps, right? So to Scott's point, I could figure it out. Bam, this is what I want to do, but today I'm pissed off about it. And then understanding, what do I do with this pistivity, right? Do I go out and still act and maybe not be as effective, or do I sit back in that, try to figure out what this anger is, or not figure it out? You know what I'm saying? But just however I want to mitigate it, however I want to process it, because the next day could be better. Because the week of George Floyd, with everything that I got going on, it was a terrible week. I got much of nothing done productivity wise, except stuff that had a clear deadline. But the next week was really good. You know what I'm saying? The burden on my back to make moves and to make actions and to think about advocacy did not leave, but it felt a little lighter the next week. You know what I'm saying? So finding pockets of strength and finding pockets of vulnerability and living in them, being okay. I think that's a thing, being okay with that feeling, but also never forgetting what the step is. You know what I'm saying? Not minimizing what that step is for you. So because it's not big and flashy like the next person, does not mean that it won't be as impactful. And it doesn't even have to be showy or on social media or out loud. It could very well be you journaling and keeping as a, you know what I'm saying, as something for you, as your actions, just so you don't cuss nobody out, right? Those are actionable steps, just so you can be the best person in your household. So I just think, understanding where you are right now, figuring out what your new one step is, and living in the range that comes with that.
Yeah. I agree. I agree. Just to piggyback quickly on that, with not judging myself, giving myself grace, acknowledging moments when I'm not okay, and being okay with not being okay. And another thing is acknowledging the moments that I do have, like you said, those pockets of joy. The times that I may be talking to a friend and they say something and I have a deep belly laugh that I haven't had in 2 weeks, I'm sorry, and really allowing myself to feel that moment and not feeling guilty for having that moment of joy with so many different things going on. And like you said, um, thinking about and praying about what is my next step. And there is a range of emotions that come with this. Even doing something like this, the very first time that I did this actual live, and Pastor Broderick was on, I remember telling him, like, I am terrified to do this. And he was like, why? And I'm like, because I know that this is my purpose, but I've never done this before. And he was like, okay, but you still gonna do it, right? Like I need you to push past that. And there was a range of emotions and just turmoil that I went through to even be able to push um past that fear and to be able to do it. And so I think it's a very real thing, that and acknowledging that with each step is going to come a range of emotions, and being okay with filtering through those emotions, sitting with them a little bit. But whatever we do, I think that it's important that we keep moving forward. That's the biggest thing, is not get being still and staying still. Take
Yeah.
a moment, rest, catch your breath, but get back in the race, man. Like, stop on the sideline, get a drink of water, lace up your shoes again, and get back in the race, because that's just where we're at, you know? So in terms of, as we're talking about next steps and we're talking about, let's say, therapy, um, let's talk about some resources that anyone who is either watching, listening, or may catch the replay, um, when it comes to finding a therapist, I always recommend Psychology Today. Like, that is a very good resource for locating a therapist. And of course, there are a lot of people who want who are African American, who would prefer an African American therapist, just because they want a sense of that camaraderie and that sense of understanding. Do you guys have anything to add in terms of recommendations for anyone? I told y'all the fireworks were gonna start, so just never mind that, okay? But for anyone who may be looking for a therapist or considering it, what recommendations would you have? Erica, are you taking new clients? What's going on, y'all? Talk to the people.
Well, I too recommend people to Psychology Today. But here recently, I've been doing like a lot of research on therapy for Black girls.
Mm-hmm.
And I find for those of us that are looking for, and this is for Black women, those of us that are looking for therapists that are, like us, we have a wide range of therapists on that particular platform. And of course, I am taking clients. I'm still doing things via telehealth until further notice. But if you do not have a therapist during this time, I would definitely encourage you to do so. Go find one. Go and find someone that is going to be unbiased. Someone that could help you create a safe space to dump off what you need to dump off. And I'm going to say this to those of that believe in a higher power, and some of us go to church and things like that. I think that that's great. I think that prayer is amazing, but I think that we also have to put footwork in there. It doesn't just stop there. And that is just something that I've heard throughout my life. Well, girl, we just don't pray about it. It will get better. But you got to put some work in there. God has strategically put people within the earth to help you. So don't be afraid to reach out for therapy.
Yeah. So a funny thing, I actually found my therapist on Therapy for Black Girls, because I wanted a Black woman therapist. So I was like, what better resource to go? So brothers, if you're looking for that, like I was looking for that, then it's for the ladies. But if that's what you're looking for, it's easy to find a Black woman there. But another resource that I found recently is the Henry Health app. And it helps connect other Black men with Black male therapists and just Black therapists. So you can find them on Instagram. I think it's just Henry Health or Henry Health app. When you search it, it'll come up. But that's definitely a way for you to find other brothers who look like us, who can help you process and work through what you're going through. And then because we're in all this Corona and all these other different type of things, Talkspace I have some friends who use it. I've never used it personally, but I've heard that it's really great, and you have the option to, you know, pick what type of therapist that you want, and based on the different tiers of plans, you can text at any time and call and all these different types of things. And it's just seems to be really resourceful right now if you don't have the capacity to go out and, you know, do the footwork and find somebody and all that different kind of stuff. So those are some of the resources I would definitely suggest.
Yeah, I was looking at Talkspace as
Yeah.
well, and also just blabbity.com. They have some resources for black men being able to find therapists. You can also just Google therapy for black men. That's helpful. Don't discount those things. But also as a resource, what I've been doing is make sure that I follow just some like IG pages that are encouraging. One of my friends has a great IG page just called Black Men Smile. And it's just at Black Men Smile. And it's just brothers like living their life with their children, with their families, and those positive images. Being sure that we pour those types of images into ourselves. And I have several other pages that I follow as well. One is called Black Men Heal. There's Black Men Feel. All of those things that are encouraging to me, that let me or remind me that like I'm not an anomaly, right? It's black men out here living and thriving and taking care of our families and doing what we need to do to take care of ourselves as well, and being the best that we can be, and not just so we can get so caught up sometimes in like especially as mental health workers and doing this type of work in what the problems are, that we have to often remind ourselves and in general as a people that there are other things going on that we need to see. We need to see these positive images of ourselves, right?
Absolutely. I've tried to put as many of these resources down here on the ticker tape. But if you're watching, you can just kind of rewind back and catch some of those other Instagram pages that were listed. And so I agree with everything that has already been mentioned as well. Therapy for Black girls, therapy for Black men. The resources are there. Like when people say, "Oh, you know, there are not a lot of Black therapists," yes, there are. We're out here, fam. Like we here. So
We out here.
we out here, fam. So I just want to encourage you to, you know, if you've been kind of um, on the edge of whether or not you should talk to someone. It doesn't have to be an extreme situation to reach out and talk to someone. You know, if you're feeling overwhelmed in even the slightest, you don't even have to feel overwhelmed. If you just say, you know what, I really need to be able to talk to someone about what's going on and bounce some of this stuff off of someone, I would say reach out. You know, contact if you are working full time, you may have an EAP. Explore that option with your employer. You know, call your insurance company and ask them what your mental health or your behavioral health benefits are so that you can know, okay, if you go and see, you know, a therapist, what is the cost? Are you going to pay a copay? If you go and see a psychologist or a psychiatrist, what are those costs? And also there are clinicians who have sliding fee scales where if you don't have insurance, they actually have mitigated the cost of their sessions to accommodate for situations in which an individual may be paying out of pocket. And so those are all some options. Thank you to each and every one of you. Josh, Scott, Erica, thank you guys for taking time out of your Friday night on Juneteenth when you could be firing up the grill and outside like my neighbors pop, you know, doing all the fireworks display and all of that. Thank you so much for being a part of this. Josh was a part of a whole protest earlier, y'all, and he came and jumped right on. So, I mean, he been in the streets, y'all. He been on the front line. So I appreciate it so much. Guys, how can they follow you if they want to follow any of your social media pages or your podcast or anything of that nature? Any one of you can go.
Well, you guys can find me on you can find me on my website. It's www.smileologycounseling.com. That's SMILEOLO counseling.com. I'm also on Facebook, Erica Utley, Katley. And then on IG, it's Smilology Counseling. I just want to say thank you, B, again for this. This was an amazing cookout, quote unquote.
Amen.
It was amazing, and I can go to bed. I can go to bed feeling like I had an amazing Juneteenth. So thank you so much.
Thank you for being a part, Erica. I appreciate you. Sure.
So for me, I am just Scott A. Hayes on Facebook, and on Instagram, I am Scott Hayes _ LCSW.
Scott Hayes. Wait. _ LCSW. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. And it's been a pleasure, man. It's an awesome panel. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Scott, for being a part again. This was awesome. I mean, come through, wife. Listen, Miss Hayes she got it in the comments. Thank you. Listen, she is so bomb.com, y'all. Like, for real. Scott and his wife are like, they need to start a whole blog out here because their adventures and like touring like art galleries and just Black-owned businesses and documenting that. Like, I watch their stuff and I'm like, I'm gonna go. Like, as a matter of fact, I went to Slim and Husky's to get pizza because of y'all. So yeah, like, it's so dope, man. So dope.
It's on the way.
Do what?
It's on the way.
It's on the way. Hey, let me know. Keep me posted, man. All right, Mr. Josh, how can they follow you?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook with Joshua J. Rogers. That's Rogers with a D. And then Instagram at I am Josh Rogers. And then for the podcast, I'm on Instagram as well at the Jigsaw Podcast. And on there, you can figure out how to listen, how to follow. I also have a website, IamJoshRogers.com. So if you just want to keep up, sign up for emails and stuff like that, it's all there. But this has been absolutely amazing. A good way to cap off my Juneteenth because it has been a day, but I am committed to doing the work and, like we said, impacting the cookout. So I loved it. And thank you for introducing me to two amazing people. Yeah, this was good. This was really good.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you, Josh, for being a part as well. I appreciate you. So, guys, listen, their information is in the comments. Please feel free to, go to their websites, follow them, listen in to Josh's podcast, keep up with them because, I chose you guys because all of you have had a voice, whether you know it or not, in not only just this part, this time, but just as a whole. Like, you have a voice and you're not afraid to speak and to be transparent. And so I wanted that as a part of this particular conversation. So I just want to encourage all of you to keep doing the work that you're doing, keep being bold, keep being confident, because your truth is needed, it's valuable, and most importantly, it is healing. So I thank you all for being a part, and we are signing out.
Peace,
y'all. Good night, y'all.
Thank you, B. See you guys.